everybody. This is Jonathan Simkin, president of 604 Records, coming to you with another edition of the Versus podcast. But for a change, it's not happening. It's not being recorded in Vancouver. It's being recorded in the offices of Warner Music in Toronto, our distributor. And I'm sitting here with the four members of Marianas Trench. We have Ian Castleman. We have Matthew Webb. We have Joshua Keeler Ramsey. I say something funny?
Actually, I'm mostly laughing at your spa voice. And here we are, and it's like you're doing a sleep story.
I am doing a sleep story.
Get cozy into
what is your middle name, Jonathan?
And Michael Ailey. What is my middle name?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should say that or ask that. Isaac. In Hebrew, Yitzchak. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Yitzchak.
Oh
my gosh.
It's hockey night in Canada.
Wow, that's great. I like that we're starting this off on with such a zinger.
Chad Kruger, the co-owner of the label, has a little joke about my Hebrew name, but I don't think that's...
yeah, that's what I thought you were going.
Yeah, I don't think that's fit for publication at this time. Anyway, we usually do longer versions of Versus. This is going to be a bit of an abridged version. But we're here in Toronto because the new album Haven is about to drop. We've been out here doing some promo, and I thought it might be interesting just as something to talk about, to sort of revisit Toronto in a way, sort of what Toronto's meant to the band in the past. And what I was thinking of most specifically was the first album cycle, Fix Me, where we went out to radio, didn't quite go as well as we wanted. And so we sort of had to scramble and come up with a bit of a plan for, you know, how to sort of make sure the record got its due. And we came up with a plan, and I can't remember who came up with it or...
I don't remember how it started. We got a little bit lucky. You're talking about coming out here for that summer?
Yes.
Yeah, my dad happened to be going to Vancouver for work.
So there was
months,
a condo available.
And then there was a house available that we could just swap into, and it was perfect for four guys, and it was free.
Yeah, we lived there, and we played every... Am I allowed to swear on this? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, so we played every shithole gig you could play in Southern Ontario. It was like, I think the goal was that we were playing 4 shows a week. I think the reality was that we were playing
about 1 to 2
shows a week.
Yeah,
but
some are better than others.
We would go and just play. I think the real plan, the real plan was we just wanted, by the time the album came out, we wanted Much Music to have heard our name. That was the real goal, as specific as that. Not that we had to be blowing up or anything. It was just we wanted them to go, oh yeah, Marianas Trench, I've heard of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's so long ago, so it's hard. I mean, a bit of it's fuzzy.
I remember that was the...
But I remember certainly having conversations with our then agent and still agent, Ralph James, and, you know, thinking and saying it's important that they meet other bands. It's important that they meet other people in that scene. So that was part of it too. It was like, you know, we need to have a fan base that is outside of Vancouver, because in Vancouver, you guys were happening, you know, it was a happening band, but outside of Vancouver, because the radio thing hadn't quite gone on that first single the way we wanted, it's like, shit, we got to figure out a way to get some recognition in another part of the country. And that seemed to make the most sense. And the fact that Mike had that available accommodation was amazing. Yeah. I remember also talking to you guys about content, like, because you had a handy cam or like
we put out a lot of stupid videos in that time.
Wasn't that the subway video shot here?
No, that was shot independently of the band. That just was my own personal video that I donated to the cause.
But that didn't happen in Toronto?
No, that was in Vancouver.
I'm misremembering
but we shot a whole bunch of nonsense videos, not specifically about band related content, but just we were bored and just sitting around. So we shot a lot of stupid videos and then just threw them online, and then people started to know us for the stupid video.
That's when we knew something was actually reacting with that stuff, though, because we were doing these videos and they were getting some views on MySpace or whatever at the time,
YouTube or whatever.
Mike said something interesting to me today. He's like, if we had just kept going with that and known what we were doing, we could have been like massive YouTube stars.
We could have been influencers by now.
We started that shit.
Well, you got it long before most bands did, and
by accident.
But I remember Ian, like, I can remember you were like working your ass off on the MySpace thing.
Oh, we all were. We oh my God, when it was the MySpace thing, we would all take there was one computer at the house, and we would each have a shift, and the goal was we had to send out or respond to something
The maximum amount
until MySpace cut us off every day.
And it was limited on how many,
a
like,
day or 500 a day or something.
was it 400?
Yeah.
So it was like we would each do 100 or something like that.
Write or respond to or write 400 messages. So every day we always max it out.
Yeah.
We just look for people who liked music we thought was compatible.
I
and say,
think
hey,
it had something to do with the success in the
100%.
beginning.
Of course it did, yeah.
It was those funny things that other bands weren't really doing or weren't really understanding. The MySpace thing, the filming those goofy clips. Like, I remember when you guys came back from that trip, and I believe the first show you played was the Purple Onion. And I remember going to the Purple Onion that day, and it was like, number one, it was like, oh shit, line up around the block. But number two, what I remember was people holding signs saying hot chocolate.
Right.
And I was like, wow, because remember, now we understand a lot more about the internet than we did at the time. At the time, it didn't seem real. Like, things that happened online, you didn't necessarily think translated into ticket sales or anything. And I remember in my brain, that was the first time I went, holy fuck. You know, we did that goofy contest, and here's all these kids buying tickets and holding up hot chocolate signs. It was profound to me. It really was, and changed in a way, kind of the way the label did things generally. You know, we looked at it all very differently because of how it went with you.
Well, remember, we were playing the same cities over and over and over here, which now it's like you can't play a city really more than once a year. But it's funny, we were playing cities 3 or 4 times in 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I remember the second time we went to Hamilton, we were playing club at the right at the end of the strip, and one of those videos out, and we walked by, and all the fans, there was only like 20 or something, but they were waiting before the doors opened, and they started doing this I Love It dance that we'd done on the video. We're like, oh my God, it's hilarious. But they were all becoming hardcore fans because of that. They didn't need to line up to get in. It wasn't going to sell out, but they were still there because they were just so excited about it.
Right. Well, we had to figure out a way to do it without radio, without strong radio support. And I mean, Much Music was a huge part of that for us.
Yeah, but they weren't on board yet at that time.
Lately.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, obviously Shake Tramp is the one that boom, but like, I'm trying to remember Say Anything.
They did play Say Anything, but they did not put it in any sort of like ratings countdown or anything like that. They didn't do that. It was just something that they played sometimes at like 3 a.m, but it got played a little bit. And then the next one that we did
played more.
It got played more, and it got into a couple of feature spots, but still not into a ratings countdown thing, but they did feature it a little more.
Yeah.
And then when Shake Tramp came out, I remember us being overjoyed because they put it into that countdown.
Yep.
And we had never been in anything like that. And it seemed like a really big deal at that moment. And it was, because like that song never got played on the radio. Probably still hasn't ever been on the radio. And I remember that summer, it was like this, we got really lucky too, because it was this, it would climb up only a single spot per week. So it was aired forever. And it eventually did go. I remember we were like, oh, it's probably going to peak at, what was it? Was it like a top 30 or something, or 20? I don't remember now.
Top 30.
So we were like, oh, it's probably going to peak at 28 or whatever. And it just slowly, but it took that many weeks to get up there. And so we were so exposed because of that.
And we were so happy when it went to number 1.
Oh my God.
The funny thing is, it was the next summer when it went to number 1, and it was the week after the Much Music Video Awards. Because I remember being at the Video Awards with Yanni going, we're Much Music, we have the number 2 video on the countdown. Like, we've done something. People will know who we are. That kind of thing. You're all excited about making progress.
And then it actually went to number 1.
Yeah.
No, that was really amazing. Decided to Break It, still one of my favorite Marianas videos.
It's hilarious.
And the scene that still to this day, it's where the ref, it's at the very end where he's hugging the ref like it's the most important thing that's ever happened in the history of the world. It's almost like having tears, and the ref, I can't remember who that guy was, but he was so good. He was just like, I don't know. It was.
I think that video was funny on a lot of levels, especially the end, the music that we made for the end of it. Remember we ripped off the Chariots of Fire thing?
And you and I did it like that stupid delay sound that's in Chariots of Fire, like that thing. And we didn't use a delay. Matt and I both insisted on going on the microphone and just actually going
That's right. And that's for the music where you're hugging the ref and you're holding your hand up in victory. It's so stupid, but it's the funniest thing ever.
Every time I think of that video, do you guys remember that poor guy, John?
John. I'll never forget John.
We were all cheering him because
Which guy's that?
He's the older guy.
Oh, he's also a
we were
train
all
tramp.
cheering,
Yeah.
like in a kind way, a nice way, cheering him on. And he started to run, and the poor guy is like his body had the momentum, but his legs didn't. And the poor guy just fell right over.
And nobody stopped to catch him because we all thought he was doing a bit because he was like as it happened. So nobody like quite
Realized he was actually
reached out
falling.
reached out to grab him because it really seemed like he was doing a bit.
Well, we thought he was doing it on purpose. And then
But he
ended
wiped
up
out.
just,
I don't remember that, which is probably good. Sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
well, it was just an accident.
Yeah, no, I hear
Yeah.
you. I hear you.
But I felt so bad for that guy.
I know he was the sweetest guy
Did we
too.
do another video on that album?
We did Shake
Shake
Tramp
Tramp.
after that.
No, but I
Yeah.
mean 3.
Say anything to break it and Shake Tramp.
Yeah, that was a 3. And then, another Toronto memory for me is actually, I'm Toronto memory. I wasn't even here, but my wife was. She came to CMW with you guys one year,
Yeah, she did.
and you played with 3
Days Grace.
Days Grace.
I don't know. We saw them, but I don't think we were on the
is
bill
that
with
what
them.
it
We
was?
saw them, and they hadn't released an album yet either. We saw them, and I distinctly remember. We watched them. They were a buzz band.
Yes.
They were a buzz band, buzzier than we were
Yeah.
at that moment for sure. And we went and saw them, and when they did the, I want to say that song is called "I Hate Everything About You." Is that what that song's called? When they played that song. It was undeniable. I remember them playing and the whole room blew up like it was already a hit song. And it was like, that song's going to be fucking big. And
sure
it was
enough, it was.
And it was. And it deserved to be. It's a great song. I remember being like, oh. And like.
Is it the Rivoli or something, right?
And I did. And the
believe it
song,
was a Rivoli.
that song didn't
it was
actually
Rivoli.
come out until maybe like 6 months after that. So I'd only ever heard it live the one time. And then I heard it on the radio like 6 months later or saw the video or something. And I immediately knew who it was. I was like, oh, that song. Right. Now it's coming out. Yeah.
Well, that's how good it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then another Toronto memory, I've just been accessing my sort of random Toronto memories. We played a private, I think it was a private, at the Sony Performance Center. And it was...
It wasn't the TD thing, was
TD
it?
Bank?
It was a TD thing.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh, that one.
And I have... Josh is like, what the
drawing
hell
on a
are you
blank.
even... It was weird.
It was
TD
super
Bank.
weird because it was very corporate. There weren't a whole lot of people there. It was fine, but they were like coming up to the front of the stage and like taking selfies while you were crouching down and taking selfies with the weird bank employees like during the set, and it was just very odd.
It was surreal.
Yeah.
It was a surreal show. And what I remember, not to embarrass Ian, I'm sorry, but
Go for it.
you had a few drinks.
Oh my God. Well, yeah.
And I remember you chasing me. So we all went down to get to the car to go back to the hotel, and you were chasing me around like a maniac. And I was like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, what? Stop chasing me. Like, I wasn't sure what you were going to do when you caught me. I was concerned.
No,
Sounds
this isn't
like
the cab. This isn't the cab one. That was another one.
That was a different one.
Oh, which one are you
There was
talking about?
another time. I have a great Toronto memory where that wasn't that
It was
night.
later. It was at the Thompson Hotel.
Ian had
Different night though.
Ian
it's another
had
Ian one. Good.
Ian had what
There's a
I
few.
would describe as more than a responsible amount of adult beverages.
So he was overly refreshed.
He was very, very hydrated.
It's a very classy way of putting it.
We had to get him to bed because he was getting loose, but he refused to leave. So Brett and I got like a cab or an Uber or whatever, and
It was a cab.
we got in with Ian, and we got into the car. And we had already told the driver where we were going, like back to the hotel.
You sold it as we're
it's
going.
time to go, Ian. We're going.
We are going.
Okay. And we got in, and then we just immediately got out the other door and just closed it and locked it behind us. And Ian was just in the cab. And I remember the cab driving off into the night with Ian hanging out the window, going "Fuckers."
That's
I was like, I knew how much I had. I was like, I went straight to France Deli and had like a massive meal because I'm like, I better eat this. I better eat this off, or I'm in trouble the next morning.
Oh yeah, Fran's 24-hour. That's right. All right, and then here we are. I mean, we're about to release an album. Like, I don't know, how's it feel? How different is it releasing this album than I don't know, releasing Fix Me.
I find it more exciting because the first time I don't think we even really knew what was going on. You know, you're like, we want to get everybody to hear this thing, but you don't really know what to expect. You haven't done it. I'm really excited, maybe more than even the last album or the one before. I don't know. It's just, it feels cool to be doing it again. I'm really appreciating the process this time. A lot of anticipation and build up.
Yeah, I think I'm still really inside the album because it's like, for me, when we're working on records, it's like I don't listen to anything else. I listen to no other music unless it's specifically like to reference something. But outside of that, like I don't listen to the entire process of recording an album. I do not listen to anybody else's music for enjoyment. I only listen to what we're working on and like just listen to rough mixes and try and think of new ideas. So at this point, I'm almost burnt out on it because I've heard it so much, but I need to keep listening to it because I'm now learning all my parts.
You got to perform it.
Yeah, so now I'm practicing and stuff, right? So I'm ultra inside it, where the songs themselves for me at this specific moment in time have zero impact because I've heard them 10,000 times.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm really excited to see what people's response may or may not be, and I'm always nervous about that. It's a really sort of naked feeling when you first put out something. So I'm very hopeful that people like it, but I can't guarantee anything.
You know what's cool about it this time around, and I think you touched on this a little bit yesterday, but is just that the team that we have in place around us, I feel is the strongest that it's ever been. I feel like the vibe with the band is wonderful right now, but also all the people that are on board helping us are just top-notch talent. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like this record has the best chance of going into the stratosphere just because of all the pieces seem to be there. We'll see what happens, but you know, I think there's a chance.
Ian, how are you feeling? What's your anticipation level?
I hope that's your.
What'd you say? Say it again.
Good.
Okay, that works. Now, I'm surprised to hear you say that you don't listen to other music when you're making an album, because you had me over to your studio when it was, I don't know, I'm going to say 60% done or 65% done. And when I walked in, I'm pretty sure you were listening to some Lou Bega.
Yeah, I was, but weirdly, I wasn't listening to
Cisco.
I wasn't listening to Mambo number 5. I was listening to Mambo 7 through 14.
Some deep cuts.
7 to 14, the second half of the album.
I actually did listen to. There were a couple of times when I did listen to other people's music, but it was not pop music. I was listening to, like, while I was working on the orchestral stuff, I was listening to like a Hans Zimmer playlist and a John Williams playlist and like film score composers that I really look up to. I was listening to that type of stuff, which is, I can listen to that stuff for enjoyment because I'm a little bit less analytical, because it doesn't sound exactly like what I do for a living.
Yeah.
You know, like I've heard Max Martin say that the only type of music he listens to in his personal time is jazz because he doesn't understand it. Or he can't see where it's going to go.
Decipher it.
You know, and I feel that I at least have somewhat of an understanding of that film score style of writing, but it's less predictable. So I find I personally enjoy just sitting down and listening to weird ambient music, you know, as opposed to like I'll pick apart a pop vocal performance for, you know, I'm so critical on everything I hear. I'm like, oh, I don't like that hi-hat sound or whatever, some stupid thing where I'm not even really appreciating the song just to enjoy it, you know?
Yes. I mean, that is one thing I'll say about this record is I feel like you really have hit a peak with the orchestral stuff. Like, you've always been very good at it, but it's something that every album seems to develop a little bit more. And this time it really, I think, was like shit. And the most complete, like it just feels so there. And it always did, but not like, I don't know. There's something about this one that's a little bit different.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Do you agree? I mean, when you listen to it,
I do think it's that style, the like symphonic arranging side of things, I think is more thought out than I've ever done in the past. And I think it's, I think a lot of that largely is like each record I've started to sort of, I can trace back all of that right back to our first album, working on a song called Alibis that had just a string quartet. And it's gone from there to like, okay, then the next album had a slightly larger string section, and then Ever After had like a full symphonic string section, and then Astoria, then we started introducing brass, and I started learning about that, and then Phantoms, we started introducing woodwinds, and I started learning about that, and now this record, it's just the full orchestra in there, and it's all sort of standing on the shoulders of the record previously, and learning from those experiences.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, actually. I don't even know. Do you guys already know what you're playing on this tour? Is that already?
There's actually a lot of debate. We're not 100% locked on what we're playing
What are
from
you
the
playing
new
from
record.
Fix Me, if you don't mind me asking? Do you know yet?
I don't think we're playing anything from that record on this tour. Well, we have to.
You know what I want you to play, right?
I don't know what you want us to
Still
play.
one of my favorite MT songs ever.
Skin and Bones?
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be the only one that.
That's my favorite song.
That's a
from
good
that album.
song. Good
Thanks, man.
God.
That's the I think in hindsight, I think that's probably the best song on that record, and I feel like there's just not even enough room for us to play all of the singles we've ever released in the set now.
Yeah.
You know that we have to like.
Oh, that's kind of a good thing.
Sure, but we have to some of them we have to like medley together and stuff like that. Like we were having a talk with like Ian was touching on this a little bit earlier, but like while we were working on this record, Bryan Adams was coming in and hanging out, and I actually said to him, because he's had such a long career full of so many gigantic hits, and I said to him, like, and he still makes good music to this day, new music, and I said, so when you write new stuff, what do you take out of the set? You can't get Summer '69 out of there, or whatever. And he was like, set just gets longer. I just play longer and longer every year.
Easy for him to say.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it. It's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know if my voice can push past the amount of time that we're on stage every day. I think it might be at its limit.
So I think we're wrapping up, but I was thinking, because we talked about this, I can't remember why this came up, I think last night, but at dinner, but about some of those really early showcases we did in LA.
Ugh.
Was that you, Josh, who just made that noise?
Yeah, fuck, those are so fucking soul crushing, man.
They were painful.
You fucking fly to LA, you're nervous, you're excited, and then you play an entire set for like two people in an empty room with
their arms folded,
with a clipboard, and the vibe between songs is horrendous. You're like, do I crowd banter right now? Do I pretend like there's a crowd here? What do I do with my hands? Like, it's awful. It's an awful thing to have to go through.
Did you ever imagine then, and I guess obviously, Mike, you weren't part of that then, but did you guys ever imagine 20 some odd years later you'd still be at it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's...
Yes, and if you don't, then
Probably not doing the right job.
Yeah, I mean, I was sure. I didn't know what that was going to look like and in what context that would be, but definitely.
That's pretty amazing. And I mean, I mentioned this, I think last night, but I mean, as much as we tried our asses off to get a deal at the time, I'm sure glad we didn't. Yeah,
me too, man. Because like it was such an exciting whirlwind time, and then it was sort of crushing when it didn't work out in the moment. But I think if we had gotten that big deal at that time with the type of songs that I was writing in that moment, we would have been the tail end of that wave of music that was happening in that moment that was over a year later. And I think we would have been, our commercial career would have been over before it started.
I'm trying to remember what we would have even played at that point in time. What were the songs? I can't remember.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think like
Far From Here.
That would have been like our best one at the time.
We'd open with that one.
Push for that one, I think.
Like some songs that would end up on our first album, but a lot of them that didn't even make the cut for the first album was what we were playing. And I think we would have been in that last wave of artists that were around in like 2003 or whatever. And I think we would have been toast by 2004,
Yeah.
I remember Fix Me and Skin and Bones were in the mix later. Because remember Jeff Blue really liked those ones?
Oh yeah,
I don't remember those were later though. Those were when I started. Like, I can kind of look back at the songwriting from those times, and I remember, really, really focusing on, because it was a fucking never ending thing of like. Jonathan, you would always say like, I'd give you a new batch of songs, and you and everybody else, and it wasn't your fault. It was my fault for not being there, not have arrived yet. But you'd always be like, the next one's going to be quote unquote the one. And that was what I always heard from people. So it was like, I was always like, you know, getting positive reinforcement that I was on the right track, but also that I was not there yet. And I think if we had made an album at that time based on those showcases, it would have been 10 to 12 songs that weren't there yet. I think that's what would have happened.
Well, you know, I always say good A&R, really good A&R isn't just about seeing what an artist is. It's about seeing what an artist is going to be. Right. You know, and I mean, I knew that from the first time you were slipping those weirdo demos under my door in my law office. Like, you know, I remember listening, there'd be these weird fucking songs that were like, you know, 9 minutes long, didn't have repeating choruses. Yeah. But I remember thinking, man, like there are parts in there that are like crazy good if you could just learn how to connect them a little differently. Yeah. And we talked about it at the time. And I mean, I remember talking to John Webster about it at the time because you were working with him, I think. Yeah. So anyways, I'm getting the time to wrap it up, I think. Well, Haven's coming out. It's coming out. What's the date? Because I'm always bad with dates.
Comes out
10 days.
August 30th. August 30th, Friday.
August 30th. Thank you, Michael. And I'm sure excited.
I'm excited too, man. I really hope people like it.
I think they will. You know, I'm always probably too honest about things, but I mean, definitely one of my favorite MT albums already.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I think, and what I really like, and I told you this when I was in your studio the first time listening to it, that you know it's an MT record when you hear it, but there's something different, and I think it's got something to do with some of the synths. And you said, "Good ear, Simkin," because it was like very sort of organic sounding.
They're all organic. There's nothing was synthesized in a computer. It's all on actual analog synths. I love
that. Like it's made a difference. Like it really, and not that there was a problem to be fixed, but it's like, you know, it's just another way to reinvent and reinvigorate, you know, so I just thought, wow, you know, but thank you guys for doing this. This
Thanks,
was
buddy.
fun as usual. And thank you to the fans. And we're looking forward to hearing what you think of the record.
Yeah.